it was fun chopping some teams on the chopping block, but can't really do that anymore if the regular season's over. Maybe I can chop some more when teams lose in the playoffs. This axe is bloodthirsty. Welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Josiah.
And I'm Will.
Music to my ears. And we are going to be looking at the wild card predictions.
Yippee!
That's crazy. We're finally here. We're not doing some regular season stuff. Now we're actually looking at the playoffs for once. They're here. And before I forget, for my sake, Will and I looked at the Pick'em leagues, and safe to say, Genuine Cats won. He had a 7-game lead against me, 181 to 91, with an 88.7%. That's really good. I had a 174 to 98 with an 83.8. Will came in third at 168 to 104 with an 80.5%. So that's still pretty good. I mean, you got some honorable mentions with Amber actually doing really well towards the end. I mean, kind of joined in a little late, but still did pretty well. Was actually kind of kicking our butts there for a while. But yeah, some other great picks that we've seen throughout the season. So it was fun. Hope to do it again this next season. So
yeah, I'm very excited.
Yeah.
Thank you all for participating. We made it a lot more fun having people actually compete along with us. But we'll hang it up for now. And we'll have to test you next year. So we'll still make our picks and stuff with these weeks as we look into what is coming up. And, if you want to drop them in the comments, like just what your picks are, just because we don't really have anything set up for the playoffs. If you just want to add your picks in the bottom, or if you just want to comment on it, whatever. But we'll get into these as we are going to start with the 4 and 5 seed of the AFC in the Chargers visiting the Texans.
I think I know what mine is, and I'm like 99.9% sure.
I think I know what mine is.
Sure.
I think I know what mine is too.
I think I know what you were thinking. And I will say what I think I'm thinking right now. I think the Chargers are going to win this game because, Texans have not been very impressive at all, especially winning their division. It was very sloppy for the most part, and C.J. Stroud definitely had a sophomore slump esque of a year. It just happens. Also, they've just been kind of battered on injury a little bit, so I don't know. Any other points you want to put in?
I mean, that's pretty much it. Power rankings revealed it a little bit, but I'm also going with the Chargers because Chargers finished the year pretty well. Looked a lot better with only a few hiccups towards the end. Texans finishing kind of cold. You came off of a win, but against the Titans, even with your backups, it's still They're just not looking great. They're not showing a lot of promise. And again, it's a sophomore slump, I think, not just for C.J. Stroud, but also D'Amico Ryans, because he's also coming in with that second year there. Chargers, I think they're looking better. And they really played for this particular game in Week 18 playing their starters for a good amount of time in that
Indeed.
one, just to lock up this game. And difference between this and the Ravens is pretty big. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Chargers. I just don't like how the Texans are playing right now, and the Chargers are pretty solid. So we're gonna go with the Chargers.
All right. Let's see here. We got the Steelers and the Ravens. Mr. Will.
Yeah. So the Ravens. I don't. I am a little nervous just because it is the Steelers, but the Steelers are very bad in playoffs. They have been bad in the playoffs for a while. And they're also not playing super well recently, and we just beat them a few weeks ago. So, and we're at home. We have every reason to feel good about it. We're 9.5 point favorites, which is kind of ridiculous.
That is kind of ridiculous.
It seems like everyone else is super confident that this should be a win for the Ravens, and I'm going to still stick with my Ravens because I
All
think
Ravens.
I think they're I still think that the better team. It's just, can they avoid the just flops they've had in the years past in the playoffs where they just don't show up. Pittsburgh, I think, will push for that to be the case, but I still think that at least this year will be a little bit better, and I think the Steelers are not going to be the team we go down to. So I'm going to stick with the Ravens.
I will as well. One of these curses is about to give. Steelers and Ravens have historically not been good in the playoffs in the last few years. Someone's got to give. I do think that it's the Ravens, though. Lamar needs to actually pick up the pace, and I think he has been, especially this year. Now that he actually has a good running back to complement him, that team around him has been pretty good. Defense has been decent, I'd say. Not as good as last year, I don't think, but it's still pretty good.
It's been ramping up the last few weeks, though. So
It has, so I'm kind of seeing some similar trends. I do think that the Ravens would probably win this in a nail biter, though. I don't think it's a solid win, though. Mostly because you know how AFC North teams play against each other. They're never like a blowout or anything, unless if it's like, okay, this is actually a really bad team kind of thing. But it's pretty rare that happens. So
the Steelers that one year.
yeah. We know how that went.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on.
We'll move on to the Sunday games, with the early window being the Broncos visiting the Bills. And this is an interesting game. I think this is... I guess there's a few things I'm looking at. The Bills are favorited, and they should be because they're a top 5 team, probably top 3 team in most people's books. A very good team, and they absolutely should be, like for every reason, should be the favorite. But I think this Broncos team is very capable of an upset here.
Oh, most definitely.
And that's not just because it's like, oh, it's playoffs, anybody can win. But I think this is like a legitimate thing of everyone thinks the Bills are going to lose, but I think that the Broncos could make this an interesting game. And a lot of it's going to come down to Sean Payton and how well Bo Nix can play in his first time in the playoffs. And if he's making mistakes, it might not be very pretty, but I think that the Broncos are, again, they didn't end the season very great, but they are a team that can still be a very good team. And so it'll just kind of depend on who shows up in the playoffs here, which is always how it is who shows up. And I think the Broncos could make it interesting, and I think the Broncos could make it scary. I'm going to still stick with the Bills, but the Broncos, they're like my upset watch team, not like not just because they're not favorites, but like they're long shots to win this game. They're like my long shot of the week, I feel like.
Okay. I am sticking with the Bills. Not saying the Broncos don't have a chance, but I'm not liking their chances right now. You're playing at Buffalo against Josh Allen in that offense. The Broncos team has not been very convincing, not counting this last week because you played the Chiefs' second and third strings. Not that impressive. They barely got into the playoffs. If the Chiefs didn't rest their starters, I don't think they were here. So,
It's true.
I don't know. I do think the Broncos could definitely make it interesting, at least the first half, but it's probably going to be a pull away towards the second half. So, there's not much to talk about there. But Bills are probably going to get it done in like 3 quarters. So
We'll have to see. I don't know. I think the
We don't
Broncos
know.
could be sneaky good, but again, it's a rookie team. It's not a complete team, but they've been good at times this year. So it's just who's going to show up. We'll move along to the NFC, where we got the 2 and the 7 seed with the Eagles hosting the Packers. The Packers are finishing the year very iffily,
Badly.
not looking great with some concerns. Jordan Love is coming back from injury, maybe. I'm assuming they're gonna push him to play. I think it's gonna be a game time decision, really, but it's gonna be. I don't think he's gonna be 100%. Like he'll be able to play, I think, but I don't think he's gonna be his true self if he does play.
Yeah.
And so I think the Packers are going to kind of be playing with like one arm behind their back, which is already bad because they have not been able to play complete football, especially towards the latter end of the year. Haven't been able to play that like complete football. So Eagles defense and Saquon alone, I think, is enough for them to win this game. So I'm going to stick with the Eagles.
Packers are going to get absolutely smoked if they do not have a plan if Jordan Love ends up sitting out. Even if Jordan Love is in this game, it's not going to be pretty. I mean, I'm assuming usually injuries tend to hinder a player's ability to play to 100%. I don't think the injury to Jordan Love was that bad. Injury. It should have been what was his injury again? It was like
And I think it was an elbow.
It was
injury.
an elbow. So, was it his throwing arm?
I believe so.
So that might be an issue then, because normally I would say they'll just tough it out and everything, but we'll see how well he does, because I don't know what it is, but Jordan Love does not strike me as a player that will win a football game like convincingly. Like as a player, I'm not confident in his abilities right now. I definitely do think he's a great quarterback. I just don't think he's good enough quite yet. Maybe I'll eat my own words if they upset the Eagles, but this is one of those matchups where I'm pretty sold on choosing the Eagles or just choosing the other team because Packers don't give me much hope right now.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, and another key detail. I mean, again, because we've been talking Jordan Love, if he's healthy, what the game will look like versus if he's not. But there's still the fact that Jalen Hurts has been in concussion protocol up to this point, so we don't even know if he'll be back all the way. I think if he is cleared, he'll be a little bit more 100% than Jordan Love would be if he played.
Yeah,
But like,
I think Jalen Hurts was concussed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it was a few weeks ago.
So he should have had enough time to rest, supposedly.
Mm-hmm.
Take it easy. So hopefully that will be enough. I'm assuming it will be. So that's why I'm not entirely sure that Jordan Love is going to, make it interesting quite yet. But we'll see. I'm still picking the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm gonna still side with the Eagles, but I mean, if for some reason Jalen Hurts isn't able to play, they don't play Jordan Love. You could see a Malik Willis, Kenny Pickett game.
Oh, I don't like that.
Or Tanner McKee.
I have more faith in Tanner McKee than Kenny Pickett.
McKee's been pretty solid.
He has been pretty solid.
We got the Sunday night game where we got the Commanders visiting the Buccaneers.
The Buccaneers.
And we've mentioned last year the Buccaneers, they made a run of some sort. Some sort of run.
It was a small run. Yeah, it was a small run.
Where it took the Detroit Lions to bump them out of the playoffs. So they did more than I think was expected of them to. And right now they're sitting in a spot where they're not like a high seed, but teams kind of know what they can do. Meanwhile, you have the Commanders coming in with a rookie quarterback and basically a brand new team who has not really been in this place together before. So, I don't know. Does Todd Bowles work his magic? Does Dan Quinn work some magic of his own in his first year? What are we thinking?
You wanted me to
Yeah, what do you think?
pick? I do think the Commanders get their first win here. Like their first playoff win together here. I am very confident in the fact that Jaden Daniels with Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury as offensive coordinator / head coach, with that roster and behind him, they definitely have a better shot at winning this game than the Buccaneers right now. As impressed as I am with Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and all those players on that Buccaneers roster, I do think there's more momentum going for the Commanders right now, especially since that I know it was Mariota with the game-winning touchdown, but that kind of, momentum going into the playoffs kind of sets the tone for what the Commanders are trying to achieve, I would say. So they're willing to put up a fight, and I think we're going to see a Commanders victory. Also, if Marshawn Lattimore is healthy and ready to go, that'll be a great game to watch. Just saying.
I'm really.
We know how it goes.
We
know how it goes with that.
Really hoping so. Yeah, I think it could be a very good game. We've not had great luck with games. We've had a few, but not a lot.
Not a lot, but a few.
What, 15, 16 games out of the regular season? It is what it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, this game. We have an idea what the Buccaneers are going to look like, and they did well in the playoffs last year.
Mm-hmm.
Can they do it again? Obviously, is the question. Versus the Commanders, where again it's new, we have no idea what to expect. I do like what the Commanders run on offense. I like the way their offense looks, and you're going up against a Tampa Bay defense that has not been very good and has allowed a lot of yards per play. They've been not very effective in the pass game, which has kind of been doing better for Washington. And then there's just Jaden Daniels' ability to make plays. And now, again, I'm not going to hash on Baker because Baker's also very good at making plays in his own right. He's a very respectable quarterback. I think most everyone loves Baker. Everyone.
Most everyone.
But I think Jaden Daniels pulls this out, and I'm going to stick with the Commanders, as that is technically an upset.
Technically, it is an upset.
So, I'm gonna side with the Commanders here.
All right. And then we finally reach the final game, where we have the Vikings visiting the Rams. Also, I've been hearing some news that there is a contingency plan for the wildfires going out in California right about now. There is a plan in place to push it either back somewhere or to move it to an entirely different location. I don't know what the plan is, but point still being, if that happens, both teams will not have home field advantage, because obviously you can't do that if you move locations. So we'll see. As disappointing as it is to see what the Vikings did this last week, I do think the Vikings have a better shot at winning this game than the Rams. The Rams, while they are good, I've said this the last episode, they're giving me the same vibe as like the last few years, where they barely sneak into the playoffs or they get their spot as a wild card team, and they either win one game and leave the playoffs, or they just get bounced right away. It's not been anything different. Stafford is still a great quarterback. Puka and Kupp have been on fire, but that Minnesota team is still really good. How are you going to stop that wide receiver core? And also that Minnesota defense is really good. So how are you going to stop that? Or how are you going to get around that?
Well, the thing is, I actually look at these two teams. I feel like are pretty similar, with the main difference really big, because they both have good receiving cores, with a probably slightly underrated running back. Both have a very good defense. I think the Rams is a little bit younger, and I think that's going to be the key here, is the fact that the Rams are very young. But the Vikings, I think, have just been more consistent. And so they've
definitely been more consistent.
I'm going to give the nod to the Vikings, but I do think that these teams are very similar, and it's just going to be, can the Vikings get past that? But I still think the Rams are a good team. I just think there's a lot of really good teams this year, and so the Rams coming in not being like completely put together, I still think there's some holes, and they win their division, which wasn't great this year. But I think they're putting things together, and they have the chance to be a complete team. The only thing that I'm hesitant on is, like I mentioned, they're very similar teams. The thing that the Rams actually have a leg up on is Matthew Stafford being an experienced playoff quarterback. And that is where things can get iffy for the Vikings, is Sam Darnold doesn't. But I'm going to stick with the Vikings because I think their team's just better. The way they've been playing, I think that defense is better. They're a little more consistent, while the Rams have kind of just been like either offense or defense. I can't make up our mind. The Vikings can play a complete game of football, and I think that's where they'll win. But watch out for Matthew Stafford, because he's been there and done it. So it's kind of his advantage. So but that does wrap up all of the games. I do have. They're only gonna get. There's only less and less games as we go on, but I do have one thing before we close out that I want to ask you, and that is, just because there's some interesting ones. Are there any teams, just because we just passed Black Monday, that if they get bounced in the first round, fire their head coach?
Ooh.
Because I think there's some teams that might look at it. There's really two.
Particular, yeah. I assume Todd Bowles is one of them.
Todd Bowles, yep.
The other one, I'm assuming it's Texans fire their head coach. I don't know why I can't remember his name.
No, I wasn't going to say DeMeco Ryans. I was going to say Mike Tomlin.
You think the Steelers are going to fire a head coach?
I mean, there have been people calling for him for a while. I don't think they will or should,
No,
but
I don't think they will.
I would love
See,
it
the
if they
thing is,
did.
if you know Steeler tradition, Will, you know that they don't fire coaches. They have contracts that, conveniently expire and just don't resign them. They never fire anybody. It's very rare that they do. So I'm not entirely sold on the idea that they're going to fire Mike Tomlin. If they do, I will genuinely be surprised. I will be surprised.
Well, I guess that's. I also don't think that they would fire him, and I definitely don't think they. Well,
Should. I
for
don't think
their
they
own
should.
sake, I don't think they should. For my sake, I think they should. But no,
It's
I
like
mean,
it's a double-edged sword. You get a coach who's really good, who has a lot of experience in the playoffs. He knows how to win games. However, when he does get the playoffs, he doesn't do well.
not recently. At
He
least,
doesn't
no.
do well.
But
So
I mean,
it's like a double-edged sword.
I mean, look at the teams he's been dealing with. I don't know. I still think he's a good coach, but looking at these other guys, like you mentioned D'Amico Ryans. I think he's pretty safe. I mean, he's gone to the playoffs 2 times now, and he made it past the first round last year. You have a young guy. I think Bobby Slowick, the offensive coordinator, is probably the person who is more likely to go. I don't think D'Amico
Yeah.
Ryans has really been a problem. I think there's a lot of
I was
roster issues too. So
Yeah, I was just throwing names out there because I was like, I know the Todd Bowles makes sense. I just couldn't figure out who else would be. And then you mentioned Mike Tomlin. So
yeah, D'Amico Ryans I think would stay, but I'm interested. So I guess of the three, do you think any get fired if their first round exits? Which ones do you think, or do you think everyone stays if they make, or do you think the playoffs is enough for all three for them to stay?
I think the playoffs are safe. Like, they've made the playoffs. I think all three are safe. If I were to choose one that does get fired, I think Todd Bowles is the one to go because he's been kind of inconsistent in his past. He's hot and cold, especially with dealing with scheming and clock management. That's also been something he struggles with. I don't know. Todd Bowles makes the most sense when we have to choose a coach that gets fired after the playoffs if they get bounced the first round. I want to say Tomlin probably gets next on line, but like I said, Steelers don't fire their coaches. They just don't re-sign them. They just let their contracts expire. That's all they do.
Yeah. I think I would agree too. I think D'Amico Ryans, he stays. Tomlin probably stays. He probably has more of a quiet exit. And then Buccaneers, you look at Todd Bowles. I think they're the favorite if someone gets fired after a loss. I think it
Yes.
would be them. If they win, I'm sure he will
He's
stay.
probably fine.
But
Yeah, he's fine if he wins.
I don't know. I mean, it just beyond. Just, it's not even just the fact that they are inconsistent during the season. It's also that they have a like their defense is not good this year. Their highlight is their offense. Todd Bowles is not an offensive coach, so like
yeah, it's the defense that is not good.
I feel like they
So
could
that's
be
what I'm.
so much better with a different coach. So that's why I think he would probably be the favorite with the first round exit, but I don't know that they will fire him because he made the playoffs.
That's fair. And if for some reason he does get fired, I think Robert Saleh would go really well there. Because I think he'd help turn that defense around.
True,
And the offense
maybe
is
like
fine. The offense is fine as it is because you have Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and all those players.
yeah,
I can see that.
maybe like a Brian
We'll
Flores
see.
too, but I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
honestly, they might promote their offensive coordinator, or if they can somehow pull this off, imagine Baker, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin with Ben Johnson.
Ooh. That's too dangerous. Don't do
That'd be a really
That's
that'd
just too
be a really-
dangerous.
It'd be a
That'd
really
be
good
really good.
offense, but I mean, if he's still on the table, they get bounced first round. Maybe you could try and see. I don't know. I think it could be
Probably.
interesting. I think it could be interesting.
Probably.
So, I just
I'm
wanted
curious.
to gauge your interest on that, see what you thought. But
For sure.
yeah, that's pretty much it. That's
That's
pretty much all
it,
we
yeah.
have for preview. I mean, this is what you get with playoffs. There's less to talk about.
I
these
feel
games.
empty inside. There's less to talk about. Football's coming to a close.
Just wait till
That's-
next week.
Yeah. I'm not gonna like next week, but thank you all for joining us for this wild card preview. I almost said recap. I stopped myself from saying that. Wild card preview, and we are getting to the end of the road of the 2024-2025 season. And these wildcard games are going to be interesting to watch because I know that we have our picks, but reality tends to not follow what people want. So, just saying, we could see the most random things happen in like the next few weeks.
That's fair.
And I guess we have to kind of deal with it. So, there's not much we can do here. We could just speculate, and that's about it. So, also, thank you all for joining us. The Pick'em League, that was pretty fun, especially with the little competition Will and I had. I definitely beat him, so I'm happy about that. I still got smoked by Genuine Cats, though, if that makes Will feel better, I guess. So he smoked us. Genuine Cats was on fire towards the end of the season. So, but thank you all for joining us. We look to see if we can live stream this weekend for the Buccaneers and Commanders wildcard game. That'll be at 7, not 7:20 this time. So we'll make sure we're more prepared this time around. And then I guess that just kind of wraps it up. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the live stream or in the recap of the wild cards games. See ya.
Bye.